My name is Dick Shellhorn. I was born and raised in Cordova in 1944. I'm 74 years old.
Awesome.
Ira Grindle, born 1949, Cordova.
All right.
Gotcha.
So, how did you? Oh wait, you were already living in Cordova, and you were already living in Cordova. So, your family? Do they obviously lived in Cordova, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to know how my family got here?
Yeah.
Okay. This will take a minute.
Uh,
Okay. My grandfather was a lineman in Seattle. He came to Seward, Alaska in 1915 and installed the first phone system in Seward, Alaska.
Just in case.
At that time, my dad was 3 years old.
Not on film.
So my dad was raised in Seward, Alaska. He graduated from high school there in 1930, and he worked in a hardware store there called Brown & Hawkins, and the guy that owned it was in Cordova, moved to Cordova. So he moved to Cordova with Brown & Hawkins. And he worked in the hardware business, and then eventually the Cordova Commercial was burned down. It was the biggest business in Cordova at the time. It was located where the Piswag building is now.
Mm-hmm.
And then he and my mom went on and formed their own clothing store. And my mother came to Cordova in 1937. She was fresh out of high school. She came up to be a nanny for her uncle who had a big fishing boat, and she was babysitting the kids, and she took a job as a waitress at the same time, and that's how my dad met my mother, and soon after they were married. And if you want a little color in the story, the first time my dad asked my mom for a date, he was about 8 years older than her, so she asked her uncle, her brother, if it was okay, and he said, "There's no way you're going out with that damn Shellhorn." So they got married 6 weeks later.
6 weeks
No,
later?
a few months later.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Why? I'm a same token. So my grandfather come from Europe. I can't remember. He logged in southeast, and then he came to Yakutat. He married my grandmother, who's 100% Tlingit. And they moved back to Cape Yakataga, gold mining, trapping. I'm trying to write this on down. My mother was born in Cape Yakataga. She met my dad when he came commercial fishing. She was working on the tender in Caliat River. And then my dad moved. They moved to Cordova and commercial fished, and he had several seine boats here in Cordova. And I was born here, but I spent about half and half my time down there living with my aunt because I loved it. I could hunt, trap, fish, do everything I loved to do. Cordova was a big city then for me.
How many people lived here? You think?
What's that?
How many people do you think lived here?
I think it was about 1,500. Yeah. And then when the fishermen come in, it was like 2,000 in the fishing season.
How many lived in Cape Yakataga?
Well, of course, it fluctuated. It was a gold mining deal at first. You know, it started, there was a saloon. They had 3 saloons and everything there. And when I grew up there, there was like 13 FAA. They made an emergency landing field there in the war in 44. You know, they put in those. And then White Alice come in for the Dewey line, you know, and then they started drilling wells. They drilled about 8 wells there. So there's always this fluctuation of people coming and going.
For oil wells?
Yeah. They know the oil's there. My uncle used it as lubrication. That real dark green, thick. You know, the oil's there, just like Catella. It seeps out of the ground. They used it. But to get it out, it's too cost prohibitive. So we're getting beyond what you're doing.
So, did you ever leave Cordova?
Oh, yeah.
Like move out.
Oh no, as a
Yeah.
family, no. Basically, no. My parents lived here all their life,
Mm-hmm.
and then I reminded me when my dad came here, the railroad was still running. And he
The
played on a
railroad?
city baseball team, and they'd ride the train all the way up and play baseball against Chitin up there. Had some great stories to tell about that.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid, we would down by the city cemetery was a siding for the railroad trains, and we go down there and pick up chunks of copper that fell off the trains. And when tour ships came in, we'd sell chunks of copper when we were little kids. The house I was raised in is the one right across the street from Mount Eccles, where Randy and Jackie Bruce live. And we moved in there in the early 50s. And at that time, Mount Eccles was not there. It was a big, empty lot. And one of the things I remember most about that is that's where they put the moose that were transplanted here.
Yeah.
They put them in the pen in front of the post office, the Forest Service to start with. And then they had a fence all the way around the whole block, and they turned moose in there. And every day I'd go across the way with Ross Green and Wallace Henderson, those guys, and those great big bottles, feed the moose.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. No, I went to school here, graduated from high school here, went to college at Fairbanks for a couple of years, then Oregon State, taught for a year in Hawaii, got drafted during the Vietnam War. I served 2 years there. My wife Sue was born and raised here also. So we were married at that time when we went to Hawaii. Then after the military, we went to Fairbanks and I got my master's. She finished her degree. I taught in Kodiak for 1 year. And then the math job opened up here and been here ever since. So,
Were you sweethearts in high school or?
yeah, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a freshman and I was a junior.
Uh-huh.
We met at a dance at the old Elks Hall. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that, okay? So,
Do you have family here now?
yeah, well, both my parents passed away here. They're both gone now. Yeah, my daughter Gretchen teaches here,
Oh yeah.
and my other daughter Heidi is teaching in Texas now. But she has 2 grandkids that are ready to move to Alaska right now. They're 6 and 4, but they're going to be Alaskans. So,
Yeah.
And Ellie.
excuse me.
And Ellie.
Oh, and yeah, and of course Ellie's my granddaughter. She's yeah, I couldn't forget her. Yeah.
Queen Ellie.
Queen Ellie, yeah, right. No, I mean we're really great kids. And to be honest with you, we love Cordova. We've been in a lot of different places. We still don't lock the doors of our house. We still don't lock our cars. And I laugh every time I go to Anchorage because I always lock the keys in the car because I'm not used to locking the doors in the car. So,
Yeah.
Do you have kids not kids, family in Cordova?
Nope. And passed away. I had one sister in Tahuya, Washington. Yeah, I had planned to go into the Navy under the buddy program. And Uncle Sam says, no. 4F, you can't hear. They run me through again for special deal. No. So that blew me out of the water. So I went to U of A, and I didn't find anything I want. The only thing I wanted to be is a police officer. And he started with the psychology book. Things are that long, the full page, I can pronounce that. Well, anyway, I started taking up a heavy equipment operator, and I went to Florida and hands-on training there, and I come back hired on in Anchorage with the state purposely to transfer back down here. Well, duh. You figure it out, there's only 6 guys here and they're going to retire here, 30 years. I had 15 years in seniority, and I said, no, I'm not going to give that up. I was up for foreman, so I'm not going to come down here. So I operated for 10 years, and then I was 10 years in management, crew foreman, station foreman for Anchorage. After 30 years, I came back home.
You survived 30 years in Anchorage?
30 years, you know, had I stayed with, well, back then, I wouldn't want to do it now. But back then, you know, in the 70s, I mean, shoot. Night shift was good because you could do just about whatever you wanted and snow removal. But now it's just incredible. There used to be distinct rush hours, you know, 7 in the morning to 9, everybody going to work, same thing coming home, you know, 3 to 5. So you got your work done in between there. But
Now it's steady all the time.
it's steady all the time. It's just incredible.
Well, I get upset at the
But-
intersection by the high school.
Yeah. Yeah, you
There's
got
5 cars? Come
four
on.
or 5 cars. That's what I was gonna say. We need a traffic light.
I know it. Senior citizen lane, maybe.
Yeah, that too. I can't get across there. They just scare me to death going down Main Street. They dive out there. Don't even look. But, yeah. Things 20 years ago they quit doing in Anchorage, they're still doing down here, and I'm saying, oh my goodness, your liability's hanging out there for a mile. So, yeah, so I got in station foreman. I got in there too much politics. I mean, they don't work on a road that needs it. They work on a road that has federal funding, and I'm saying that's wrong. That's not right. So,
Do you have?
I hired on as equipment operator, not politics, to hold somebody's hand.
Do you have a favorite place in Cordova?
A favorite place in Cordova?
Hey, me first.
Yeah, that's right.
Come on.
I get to think about this.
Yeah. Oh, you got too many favorite places.
That's it.
In fact,
Cordova.
I don't think that's the definite. I'm just kidding.
no,
I'm
really, I
kidding.
do. I mean, in fact, I told my wife when it gets around time when I'm going to die, I'm going to try to bulk up because I have so many places I want my ashes scattered. That's really. But my favorites are duck cabin down in Pete Hall. Yeah, and that's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. The history of the duck cabins started right after World War II, basically. Before that, it was all down at EAC, and they were cannery cabins. But when they built the road to replace the tracks on Mile 13, that gave people a way to drive out there. And then as soon as the road reached like about mile 17 or 18, they could go down Allegheny.
Mm-hmm.
So people started going down there with boats, and it's kind of a long trip, so they started building cabins wherever they wanted without Forest Service permission. And what happened was then the Forest Service finally said, whoa, this got to stop. So they had a lottery and to draw sites to build cabins. And my dad put in for one in 1959, and we drew it, so we built a cabin there in Pete Hall. And we've been, taking care of that cabin ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And the Delta, has changed incredibly because of the earthquake. I mean, when we built it, the Delta looked like this tabletop grass about that high. You could see forever. And now you can see about 5 feet, and the trees are 40 feet tall. So, but it's still a great place for a family.
Yeah. So what he said, growing up in Yakataga, we're right on the Gulf, right on the open ocean. The ocean. Matter of fact, it takes about a week to get used to that noise of the surf. So you had views. So in Cordova, the view, we lived down there by the radio station, and we could just barely see the water out there. But George Disher made a impression on me. He says, "Look out there, Ira." He says, "That's God's country." At the time, I thought, is that blasphemy or what? But the sun's setting out there, and you see Little Mummy Island and that. Yeah, I like that. But I'm with Dick. Cordova's pretty small. I like it all.
Do you have a favorite place in the world?
In the world?
Yeah.
Man, there's a lot of world I haven't seen. I'd still say right here.
I was gonna say. That's why I moved back here.
No,
You guys aren't the Lone Rangers.
No,
oh, the tempo,
Most
the
people say
pace.
that.
You know, we
get
just
that
got back
answer.
from 2 weeks in Seattle. My wife's mother passed away,
Oh.
and they moved down there in the early '80s, and since then the tempo, and the pace, and the traffic. Oh goodness, it's nerve-wracking.
It,
And you start getting irritable, and the whole ball of wax. So no, it takes a certain type of person to want this kind of lifestyle. But we love it.
Mm-hmm. Have you traveled anywhere? Oh wait.
he was gonna. He
No,
said the same.
No.
I
Yeah.
think on his, yeah.
That was a good answer.
Yeah.
Okay, have you traveled anywhere out, like, big outside of Cordova? That you would-
Yeah, I spent a year in Korea in the military. We've never been the
In
other way.
Seoul? Or
No, we were in a little camp. They called it a camp left over from the Korean War. Lived in little Quonset huts.
oh wow.
About 40 miles south of Seoul. That was, in fact, the year I transferred there was the year they had the Pueblo incident. That was a spy ship that the North Koreans captured. And there's always been tension there because technically there's never been a truce signed between North and South Korea. So when I was there was about 60,000 American troops. And it was during the Vietnam era, but it was classified as a hostile fire zone. And the concern was the North Koreans and the Chinese would take advantage of the fact that most of our troops were in Vietnam. So yeah, and Korea today and then are just like, I can't believe Seoul, Korea, because I was in the Signal Corps and I was a courier, so I'd have to drive up to Seoul in a Jeep on a 40-mile road. The only highway in Korea at that time. In downtown Seoul, Korea, there was a street about 8 lanes wide, except there were no lane markers.
Oh, wow.
And in the Army, if you put a dent in the Jeep, you have to pay for the damages, and it was terrifying. And the highest building was like 2 stories, because the whole thing had been leveled during the Korean War. But, and short answer, so I was in Japan and Korea, as far as out of country.
Was it Grandpa in Korea?
Yeah, my dad was in Seoul
Oh, was he? Oh, okay, yeah.
right before the Korean War.
Before the Korean War. Wow.
That's where he was stationed.
Oh, my goodness.
He was a cook
He was a cook.
at
Well-
a military hotel, and everywhere the military would
The way the Korean War went, it didn't matter whether you were a cook or not. You were toting a rifle before that thing was over. Yeah.
And my dad was in Korea during that war, too.
during the war.
Wow.
Well,
He was in the amphibs. He had his head sticking out the top, kicking the guy underneath him, scaring him with his feet.
Wow. Well, he wasn't involved in the invasion of Incheon, was he? With MacArthur and the Marines? Okay.
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
No.
Just an aside, Korea has incredible tides, almost like Cook Inlet.
Oh,
And I mean, they fluctuate 30, 40 feet.
Oh, wow.
And you try to make an amphibious landing in those conditions. I still can't figure out how they did it.
Wow.
I mean, they had to be darn sure they did it right because they're going to be out there sitting in the mud for quite a while as soon as the tide
Sitting duck.
drops.
Yeah.
There were some dents in his helmet. We went to Pendleton and looked at his gear, and it was pretty.
Oh,
good.
really?
Yeah. It's in his gear is on display.
Huh.
Interesting.
You've never been out of the United States?
nope.
You better
Well, yes, I went through Canada a few
Oh,
times.
Canada. No, well, that doesn't count. Come on.
It does, too. I get
Oh,
pretty,
okay, I've been to Canada.
after
okay.
about the 4th day, I'm in a foreign country, and if they give me a ticket, they're not letting me out of here. Plus, they shut my credit card down twice on me now, and I'm saying, the first time, okay, I made the mistake. The second time, I told you I was going, but they shut your credit card off in the middle of Canada, and I'm counting my pennies. I have enough gas to make the border. But no, I've been to
It's nerve-wracking.
Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Florida, and drove back. Up the highway. That's enough. No, but
Yeah.
like I say, that
USA is a big country.
yeah. And I didn't see anything where I wanted to stay other than here.
What would you share about Cordova?
what would I share about Cordova?
Like to someone who's never
Yeah.
been here.
Wow. Some things I wouldn't share because of my secret hotspots.
Yeah.
My favorite place to fish, my favorite place to ski. No, I mean, like my grandkids. I mean, the hiking, you know, being out in the water, scenery. For them, most of all, is just the freedom. I mean, your kids are just, it's a great place to raise kids. They get up in the morning, you don't have, it's not like in Austin, Texas. Go on down the beach and play, you know. You don't have to worry about, well, Cordova's changed a little bit, but it's still really a great place, really safe, relaxing. The tempo, and the trails,
Lots to do.
hiking, yeah, lots to do. Drives me crazy when kids say there's nothing to do in Cordova.
Yeah.
Oh
Me
my
too.
goodness.
We hear that a lot in school.
Do you really? Yeah. You know, is it the chamber, whatever, has that little brochure, 100 things to do in Cordova? You should pass those out to every kid in the high school.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the list for my kids, and I'm trying to check them off, and we've got a lot of things left to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a giant sticker that has all the hikes in Cordova.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
check them off. I want to get one of
You know,
those.
I often thought they ought to have like a badge.
Yeah.
You know, when you know, self-trust, but check off all the hikes you've done.
Didn't
And when you've done them all,
Madison make that stuff?
That's what she's talking about.
Marina Madison made, yeah, but it's not a badge, but it's
Yeah.
a sticker with all of them. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
like a Girl Scout badge,
oh yeah,
where
yeah.
and you can make your own badges.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, have
Cool.
that.
Well, you know, I talk to people and they say, "Where are you from?" I say, "I'm from Cordova." Oh, that's the most friendly place. But I'm saying, where did they get that idea? You know, because you come here, people are just people. Don't lock your doors. You trust people. People are people.
The sailboats are
friendly.
coming up from South America. They're hearing about us down in Brazil. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, spend your winter in Cordova
Oh, is that
because
right?
it's friendly. There's lots to do in the winter, and
Yeah.
In fact, the other day there was some
Also-
French couple riding,
yeah,
Right.
rides the bikes.
riding bikes
Uh huh.
out along the lake there.
Yeah.
I laughed because I was walking fairly fast, but they rode their bikes alongside me for about 10 minutes, just shooting the breeze, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I like reading like Lonnie Jansen in the newspaper. They used to have what's happening, you know. Well, now it's people sue and stuff. But I got accused of stirring the pot because, you know, I'm asking questions, you know. I'm saying, no, that's the way we communicate. We know that somebody needs help or somebody, huh? Yeah. So, yeah, I wish we had the Loney deal, and you know, who's painting their boat, who's changing this, who's the
Harbor Scuttlebutt.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
Harbor
Scuttlebutt.
Scuttlebutt.
It was called the Harbor Scuttlebutt. Yeah.
Good.
scuttlebutt, and then they changed it a little bit, but yeah, everybody knew. Of course, everybody went down to meet the boat, the steamship coming in. I mean, that was the pastime.
Yeah.
Who's coming and going, and you know, that's what makes a friendly place.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, do you have any like really extraordinary experiences that you want to share?
Extraordinary experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, I got one. I about drowned in Hartney Bay, yeah, and I'm born and raised here. I know you cross those gutters every time, you know, when the tide comes in. We had a whole bucket of clams and everything. Boy, that was actually, and I think they should put this in the school. That you know, the hazards of the. But the biggest hazard was, after the fact, the hyperthermia. What was the first thing? They huddled around the stove and drink something hot. That was the worst thing you could do.
They
If
talked
you're
to you about
cold
that
and you
in
drink
public
something
this
hot, man, it'll kill you that quick. And it can happen so fast because we're right here close. I mean, 10 minutes, you're hiking up the trail, you get wet, and you can get hypothermia. I mean, that's my extraordinary. Shoot.
Wow, extraordinary can mean a lot of
You
different
get,
things.
you get the.
Yeah.
you
I would
get-
have to say being bit by a brown bear was extraordinary for me.
Yeah.
You and Ermold, huh?
Yeah,
Up,
right.
up there.
Yeah, that's a long story, but it was.
I was just given this note for Rod to ask about the bear.
Yeah.
Give us the
You
short
can tell a bear
version.
story.
Everybody wants to hear the bear story.
Yeah.
Well, it's extraordinary.
It's
It's
pretty
It was extraordinary.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The bear
Right,
story.
good. I wanna
Start
hear
the clock. It's time is running.
Yeah.
I'm getting
You know
popcorn
what-
for this one.
Are you guys aware of, the Heaney Ridge Trail, not the Heaney Ridge, the Crater Lake Ridge Line Trail, the
Yeah.
Alice Smith Trail? Well, halfway down that trail, there's that hut. You ever been to the hut there?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful little hut. Okay, and
But I know
anyhow,
of it.
Yes, you haven't gone with us.
I've gone.
we discovered that was a great place to ski in the winter. Except it's a bugger to get there. The first time we actually went up Crater Lake Trail and traversed the whole ridge line. So we figured out an easier way is to go right to the end of, where the spotting stream is the end of the Power Creek Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go straight up from there, you're in the brush, you're in bear country the whole bit. It takes about 4 hours, but it's still a lot faster, especially coming back down. So we'd done that for 2 winters, and one summer we decided we'd fix up the hut a little bit for hanging our gear in there to dry out when we went up there in the winter. And when you go up there in the winter, by the way, you have to use a probe to find the hut. That was before GPS, because it's totally buried, so you have to dig your way in. And once you're in there, it's like a snow cave. It's awesome. So anyhow, that's the setting for this story. So basically, Dr. Noel and I and his daughter Wendy, who's about the size of Ellie right now, she was a sophomore in high school. We took off from Crater Lake and hiked all the way up to that hut with actually a little table and some hardware to make a folding table and some stuff. And by the time we got there, she was out of gas, so we decided instead of hiking the whole way back, we'd go straight down the way we was doing in the winter. Well, it was in July, and there's a spawning stream there, and we knew it was bear country. And what? And we were making a lot of noise. We both had referee whistles. We were both carrying 40-foot pistols, and we got probably 300-400 yards from the road, and there was that stream there, and it was making all this noise. And basically, what happened is we ran into a sow with 2 very young cubs, and she didn't hear us coming because of the noise in the river. So my partner, Dr. Earnable, was in front. Wendy was in the middle. I was in the back, and he popped over this little hill that looked down into the stream, and he said, "Oh, excuse my French, shit, it's a bear." Well, we had to make a quick decision because we could hear it coming up through the brush, and everybody afterwards said, "Well, why didn't you shoot the bear?" Well, we'd had to shot the bear from me to you before you'd seen it. So we turned around and backed up the trail, ran up the trail. And of course, that's the wrong thing to do if a bear is coming up over a hill and sees you running away. So basically, Wendy was in front of me. I grabbed her. I tossed her up a tree. My partner was on his own. I headed for another tree, and I got probably about as high as this ceiling up the tree. I could hear the bear behind me, and the branches started, and I couldn't get any higher. And I heard this noise, and I remember pretty vividly. I turned around and looked, and all I saw was the mouth of this, like this, with these teeth, right? And I was wearing shorts, of all things. Hiking shorts. And as the bear tried to bite me, I still remember that noise. Like that, when her teeth met. I pulled my leg out of the way, and believe me, I was getting further up that tree if I could.
Yeah.
And it turned out I couldn't. And it also turns out that brown bears can't climb trees, but brown bears can jump.
Oh,
Yeah. So the second time around, she actually got a hold of my leg. But the joke was they called it bite and release. Or all kinds of jokes afterwards. I mean,
Catch and
I
release,
yeah,
bite and release.
I was very fortunate.
Yeah.
She could have ripped me right out of the tree,
Oh,
but she
yeah.
bit my leg once and put in.
You didn't
Bunch-
taste good.
Yeah, right. I heard those, referees don't taste good, I mean, all kinds of stuff, yeah. So anyhow, she put a bunch of puncture wounds in my leg and dropped, and partly because the two cubs had come up.
Yeah.
And then my partner was waving his 44 from about 30, 40 feet away, and he was afraid he'd hit me instead of the bear if he shot. So he waited until the bear dropped and ran by him, and then he shot at the bear and missed anyhow, which is probably the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
So after that, they were going to get bit by a bear. It's kind of nice to have a doctor along.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Oh,
he said, well, what do you want me to do? I said, if you're the doctor. So we walked out. And
wow.
believe it or not, we had to wade through that glacier stream, and that felt great on my leg.
Okay. Did it ache a lot? while
No,
you-
it's like a bad dog bite, basically. And then I always remember, so we had left a car there, so we were trying to drive into town, and Jack Deneen, you remember him? He was in the pickup in front of us. We're trying to get to the hospital. He's going about 5 miles an hour.
Oh.
He can't hear. We're honking the horn. So, yeah. So we went to the clinic, and
Wow.
my friend, the doctor, called up my wife, and she was upset because, as always, we were late for dinner. Said, you might want to come to the hospital.
We have a good
Anyhow,
excuse.
I am
this
dinner.
time.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyhow, I mean, I was very fortunate. Ended
Yeah.
up with a lot of stitches, but
Could you not get up any more branches because the tree then got too little? And
no, it wasn't
anymore,
just,
or
you know how
it
the
wasn't
branches on
any-
these trees, and when you on this,
So
it was a spruce
thick.
tree, and they get so thick you just couldn't go on.
Oh,
So,
Wow.
so that was extraordinary.
That was
That's
a-
very true.
You're the only one in the room, I think, that's been bit by a bear.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
it's amazing. There's a lot of people that have had bear issues that don't talk about
Anita's
it.
been treed by a bear.
Yeah.
And the bear came up the tree twice.
Up the tree. How
I
far?
had a camera. I was up probably 30 feet.
A brown bear?
Cottonwood,
A brown bear came up the tree?
black bear.
Oh, black bear. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
How did
But that
And
was,
came up and went down and circled the tree, then came up really fast. That time I was, please God, don't let her eat me.
was it cub?
No, just I think a young bear, young black bear.
Well,
She
they-
followed me for a while, or he, and then I had a camera bag in between us, sniffed at that, and then decided to go back down and
Wow.
circled around. And I stayed up in that tree shaking for half an hour because I had a mile to walk by myself.
Ooh.
I didn't know where it went. Yeah,
Wow.
scary, but it didn't try to bite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Huh.
It would have been hard where we were, but it could have probably pulled me down.
That's extraordinary, though.
I have
All
a
my
picture.
life growing up, the blackbirds, and I treated them that way. They never. But a brown bear,
Yeah, black
I
bears.
don't need to go that way.
So, Ira, tell us about your bear interactions in Yakataga.
No, well, I was just doing that.
You had that as a
we
special
walked them
note?
every night.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Every night on the
Essentially.
dump. Yeah, that was great fun. Every night we said, clink, clink, clink. Oh, they're out there. We'd hammer on the skillet or something to make them jump and run.
Black ones or brown ones?
Both. But, yeah, I don't know if it's in the photos here. I told you about the tree and I get this dog from, North Dakota or somewhere. Beagles. I was into beagles, and I'm trying to get him to chase bears, and
little beagle?
Beagle.
well, I had
Beagles are
several,
like
and they were crossed with black and tan. They hunted bear, but a dog, lets you know that they're there. But anyway, so I treated black bears always run, but the brown bears, I watched them on the dump, be a 55-gallon drum there, and he flipped that out of the way like a tin can, just. And I later went over there, and it's a third full.
Huh?
And I'm saying, oh. And then the helicopters, the oil companies there were. If that helicopter went over, you better not be on the trail because he just run right over the top of you.
Huh.
He jumped that 8-foot bank and he was down, gone. It's like, what happened? So he stayed out of the way of the brown bears. So. The black bears, I never had a problem.
But you know, a follow-up to the bear thing. I mean, all of us have had bear encounters.
Mm.
You know, if you live in Cordova and you're going to be in the woods, you can have bear encounters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't let a bear encounter deter you from going back in the woods. In fact, I told people afterwards, I said, I'm a retired math teacher, right? I says, what's the probability of being bit by a bear twice in your life? And I said, no, on top of that, I've been vaccinated.
Oh, yeah.
So
And they know you're a rabbit.
that's right.
So we have a
Talk them all. Put them in the camera.
Rob has given
Ooh.
us
Oh.
some of your books here.
Oh, yeah.
Shameless advertising here.
Yes. Oh, what?
Showing
Available
the
at
camera.
shellhorn.com, okay?
Could you tell us a little bit
Stand them
about
up a little bit.
writing a book? How was
Uh,
the experience?
Sure. These aren't really books. These are more like journal books. Both of them, this one was born, we started a journal on our duck cabin. Every time we went down there, we made an entry in the cabin. That dates back to 1959. You know, there's like thousands of entries, and it was not just a signature, some little event. So that's what kind of inspired me to write this book in the first place. And the book itself, if you look at it, it's just short stories, anecdotes. I don't write a book. I'm not a writer. But I enjoy telling stories, and that's how to write a book. Just tell a story.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can tell it verbally and then just commit it to paper. And that's the same thing with this book. It's really events that have happened that this one I can tell you a lot of the stories here come after the basketball game when the referees get together on Saturday night to have a cold one and rehash all the mistakes they made and all the weird things that happened. And believe me, they happen. And then so we start telling these stories, and that's how my books have been. Again,
How long have
www.dickshellhorn.com.
how long have you refereed for?
How long have I refereed for?
Yeah, like
Jerry Benzak and I started refereeing together in Cordova in 1972. So this is year 47.
oh wow.
Yeah.
And our goal is 50.
50.
Yeah.
We interviewed him, and that was what he said.
Yeah.
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 Want to make it to 50.
And we've had a lot of great times together.
Oh my gosh.
People don't understand. How do you say? We have a heck of a time recruiting referees anymore just because the climate has changed. Back when we started, we had like 8 referees. But there's a lot of people feel a lot of pressure. They're not willing to put themselves under that kind of scrutiny.
Yeah.
The game was a lot more fun then. It's a lot more serious now. Coaches are harder to deal with now. But still, there's a esoteric magazine called Referee Magazine. It's a monthly. It was started 25 years ago by 40 years ago now. By the way, there was a referee, and he was tired of all the criticism referees were getting. And in the 40th anniversary edition, he listed 40 reasons why people referee. And reason number 1 is camaraderie. It's kind of like why you play sports. Like Jerry and I, you know, we've been together with this and all these other people. You know, the post game is a lot more fun sometimes than the game, but it's really about people and putting yourself on the line and sticking up for your partner and feeling good about what you did afterwards. You know, neither one of us has ever called a perfect game. Never will. Nobody will ever play a perfect game either. But it's the challenge of it. And plus being around people like you, it keeps you young, keeps you active.
Yeah.
So
The
Yes.
generation connection.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
How many miles do you think you run in a whole game? Kind of curious, like a whole night.
You know, they've done studies about that. Probably, and again, depends on who's playing and the
Yeah.
type of style of play. Probably about between 4 and 5 miles
Wow.
in a game. And more interesting is how many decisions you make in a game.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Terry Kennedy talking about how many hours he's flown, but it's the takeoff and the landings that count.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same thing with refereeing. It's the decisions you make, and half the time the decision is whether to blow your whistle or not. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's 10 people out there, and there's 2 of you. But in a typical game, each referee will make at least 100 decisions.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's
Are
the
you
crucial
brain
point.
tired afterwards?
It's exhausting, yeah. It depends. Again, it depends on the style of play. I'll be honest with you. The most challenging games are junior high games because they make every mistake in the book. Believe me. And I mean, not on purpose. That's just the nature of the beast.
Learning.
The easiest games to referee, it might seem contradictory, but are state championship games because the skill level is so good.
Oh, they know what they're doing.
Half the time, you just get to run up and down the floor and watch them play. You don't have to blow your whistle, and that's when that's the payoff. That's when it's really fun.
Do you ever train for the running? Like
Every day, yeah. In fact, Jerry Benzak and I both, he hikes SEAC every day. I try to do it every day. If I don't, I walk at least 4 or 5 miles. That's another reason you referee. It's an incentive to stay in shape, take care of yourself. I mean, you're not going to go out there and make a fool out of yourself. If you're not in shape and you can't do the job, you shouldn't be out there. So. We're looking for referees.
First female referee I would have seen in Cordova for a while. I'm sure there have been some. But
There
I
have been
haven't
some,
seen
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any.
Well,
Maybe.
Come to the games.
That's true. I know very often.
Well, in fact, district tournament this year, one of the referees is a female referee. Her name is Allegra Butler.
Oh my gosh, I love her. She's so nice.
Yeah, they just show you. I mean, you can be a good. We're getting way off the subject here in refereeing.
Sorry, guys, I had a
I mean,
referee at
the
the
way you
same time.
referee is the way you are as a person.
Yeah.
You can't change your personality to referee. You have to be who you are. But yeah, she's got the gift of gab. She was the MVP at the UAA women's basketball team. She's in the Alaska Basketball Hall of Fame. I mean, and she's a character. I mean, she's just a lot of fun to be around. So those are the kind of people that influence the way you do things.
Alright, so I'm not calling you this, but how does the word old make you feel?
The word what?
Old.
Old?
The worst question.
No, it's not the word. I don't feel old.
Okay, cool.
I think the secret to not getting old is not to deny it, but just you are where you are and go with it. It isn't as easy to stretch and get ready for a game when you're 75 as it was when you were 25, but that's part of life. And I think that don't fight it and go with it. And just take care of yourself, and you can go a long ways. How about you, Ira?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying.
I don't feel old, but
No.
you start noticing. Oh, that's what they were talking about. You get down on the floor and it's a little hard to get back up. You don't bounce anymore.
Sayings about age. How old would I be if I didn't know how old I was? You start forgetting stuff. Yeah.
So do you guys feel a need for there to be a better generation, a better connection between the generations?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why I referee, to be around young people. And even though I don't think fans know this or whatever, but half the fun for me of refereeing is chatting with people when you're handing them the ball or in the ball game, or saying them good game after the ball game, or trying to talk them out of doing things they shouldn't be doing. A lot of it's communication, but that's the ultimate anti-communication. Okay, but I'll tell you what makes me feel youngest of all is having grandkids. Oh, it's in fact, and again, I'm getting off the subject, but so my grandkids in Texas, Huck is 6 and Weasel is 4, and they're just both little pistols, right? And he's just started kindergarten, right? So Heidi, we communicate. I mean, that's the great thing about internet and everything else. You can communicate so much. So Heidi sent us this text the other day, and the two of them, they played pretty well together. So Huck was making this fort out of blankets and all this stuff, right? And Liesel's trying to move into his territory. Huck says, wait a minute. You can't just move in here and act like it's your own, like Christopher Columbus.
Wow.
I'm thinking, whoa, that's a 6-year-old? I mean, stuff like that. Just a little something that they say or do just makes you, wow.
Yeah.
That's when you wish you could live to be 150, you know? So.
And is there anything you can see, any way you think that can be fixed in Cordova, or shrink, the gap shrink?
Things that could be fixed in Cordova?
No.
The gap between.
Oh, I'm sorry, the gender gap?
Yeah.
Generational gap? Yeah, that's a gender gap. Excuse me. It's
Don't
getting
get on
past
that
my
subject,
bedtime.
Yeah.
Actually, I went skiing today. It was great. But so, yeah, I think more of this.
Yeah.
You know, have and maybe in more relaxed. I mean, this is a relaxed setting. You know,
Without the computer and the writing and the questioning, you mean just more.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect here.
Yeah. But it's hard to get people. You know, the one thing that's really changing in Cordova is it's a lot harder to get people out of their houses.
Yep.
You know, because of the technology, everything you can do by yourself. When I first came here, all the lodges, like the Elks Lodge and the Moose Landing, were really active. And there was something going on every night of the week where people got out.
Right.
And now it's too easy to sit down in front of the TV or the computer.
I was telling my kids that, the kids come over and play board games and stuff, but for me to get some of my adults friends,
Oh, yeah.
they get home and they
Yeah.
don't want to move. Like you said, I'm like, oh, I still
Well,
like to go out and do stuff. But
Absolutely. And I mean, you just talk about an example of somebody that does stuff. I mean, Ira and I, we're pikers. I don't know how you do it. And the other thing, it is interesting. I think when you get older, you try to look back from outside perspective. You know, I taught at the high school for 30 years, and it used to be like before school and at lunchtime, it was just a madhouse, right? In a way, I kind of regret it isn't anymore because everybody's sitting there doing this. You know, they're not talking, they're not interacting as much as they used to. It's more this communication. They might be doing this with a person, you know, two people over. You know, so technology, I think, has impacted our lifestyles maybe too much. Yeah.
Jesse's class was the first class to get the computers there. That was like 8th grade, and everyone would play basketball or they'd be in the gym playing. And then next week, as soon as everybody got those, they were all down the hallways on their computer.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but so
I
many
still
of
play
them.
basketball.
Huge change. But that was a
Still
dramatic
never did
change
before.
at the school.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a
It
dramatic
was just
change.
within a week or so.
It's a dramatic change in society.
Yes.
I mean, it's not just Cordova.
Yeah. I see it as, wow, they can Photoshop. It's getting harder to know what's real and what's not on that computer. It used to be a photo told you everything. Now they do those photos, you don't know if it's real or not. You're going to have to be more inquisitive and more seek out what it is they're showing you. But, you know, my generation, if you had a picture, say, hey, there's that picture. You can't dispute a picture. But now they put heads on different faces and all that. You know, come on now. So.
And by the way, Ira's doing something that's incredible down at the library there. He's trying to digitize all the photos.
All the old
I've-
photos. It's
Oh,
amazing.
Oh, there's
All the
file,
railroad
file.
1900s, you kind of forget that, whoa, what's happened in 1908?
It's you guys
You know?
should go down there and just, he can tell you, here's Alleganic, what it was like, or here's the railroad here, and it's so neat. There's a picture of Main Street.
So, what decision have you made that made the most impact on your life?
Wow.
What decision?
Can I answer that one tomorrow? Let me think about that.
Hey, you should have had this
No.
question then.
Oh, what decision? I'd say marry my wife. I really would. We've been married 52 years now. We started out, she was well, like I said, she was a freshman, I was a junior. Yeah, we're family people and family.
I don't know how to answer that one. I have to think on that.
Come back.
Being a heavy equipment operator, that was my biggest.
I mean, you make decisions for your whole life.
Yeah,
Some of them are
Wow.
good, some of them aren't so good.
yeah,
And there's some you look back and say, what the heck was I thinking about?
yeah.
Okay. Should we stop it?
Yeah.
Are we?
Oh, good. Let the party begin.
More wine.
Yeah, I didn't know what to
We'll have to
expect,
cut that
Okay,
out.
we're gonna have to.
but that's
There's
interesting
one more
on
There's
that.
one more question.
Project.
though,
Oh,
but-
this is off the record, this question?
No, it's
Now we
gonna be
get to go,
recorded,
okay.
but you can-
Finally,
Oh, they-
now they turn it off.